Hi everybody, Jo here again. Thanks so much for popping in. As always, I'm looking forward to having a bit of a crafty catch up with you. Might be a little bit quicker today, only because Friday's grandma duties. So we've taken the boys to school this morning because both Adam and Danielle are working today. So Thursday, Friday, grandma duties, but they break up for summer today. So it's lunchtime. Now, I didn't realise this until this week. So unfortunately, all my Friday jobs that I had to do have now got to be done before lunchtime. But I didn't want to not come in because recently I've missed you on a Friday a bit because I've been busy with, don't get me wrong, it's lovely. Teaching workshops is just fabulous and I meet such lovely people. So we are going to have a bit of a catch up. And I came up with this design and it was totally inspired by, I love the teapots and I used to collect them. I was a bit of a fiend, but when we moved house, when I saw how many I'd got, I did get rid of a few because I did have far too many. And there's a certain blue and white type of, I'm not sure what we can mention on here, but you know what I mean. And it was the thought of the blue and white pottery that gave me an idea for doing this. And as you know, I love, when I looked for the florals to go in, Mecanopsis poppies just had to be the ones for me. So this is the sort of thing I'm coming up with. But, you know, if it gives you an idea, you could maybe just do it in your friend's favourite colours. Or have they got a certain type of, there are so many different types of pottery around, aren't there? Could you design it, colour it in to resemble that? Just a thought. So this actually starts as a piece of multifarious and it's 5.5 inches by 3.5. And the colours I'm going to use today, the Versafine Clair, I've just gone for 2 colours and I've gone for Blue Belle and Arctic. I thought this was more or less the colours I was thinking of for that type of pottery. And I'm going to start with this stamp. And I've got to be honest, it's the first time I've used this one. This is the Earl Grey Lodge. And I did feel bad because I hadn't used it. So, and yes, I have turned that over. You can tell which way cards cut and it just looks better that way. Now, what I did was I stamped it originally on a piece of copy paper. I always do the first time, whenever I get new stamps, I always stamp them on copy paper. But I've cut that out and it works as a beautiful mask. We have got masket sheets, but do you know what? The fact that I'd already done it on the copy paper, I thought, well, we'll use that. Now, I'm going to ink up in the blue. But what I want to do, because we're going to stamp in the actual teapot, I'm just going to get a little cloth and wipe off this back bit here. Because then when I stamp my flowers, it will just look that bit better. So I'm just taking that off there. And then I'm going to stamp it sort of middle-ish about here. So how are you keeping? I hope you've had a good week. We've had a busy week here, but then we usually do. Now, a couple of you messaged and said you're under the weather this week, and I know a few of you are struggling with either the heat or, and I think we've got thunderstorms expected in various places today, so you just take care of yourselves, please. So if you look, because we just took that ink off, it'll be better now when we stamp the flowers. And I have to remember, when I say this at workshops, it's no good having a mask if you're not going to use it. So I'm just going to put that there because I am likely to forget and stamp my flowers. And I've gone for the poppy from the group Poppies. And again, I'm just sticking with the same deeper blue. And I just want to see where the neck of this is. So I think I'm going to put this one there. And again, just let that ink soak in. Don't be in a rush to lift it up. And if you've got a bit of a gap here, don't worry because we're going to use our pastel pencil. Now I'm just going to give the top, I know we're going to stamp this again, but I want to wipe it just to save getting ink all over my fingers. Now don't forget your flowers, you can bend them a little bit. As long as you don't bend them too much, they will move slightly. And it just makes them look more natural. So we'll stamp that again, same blue colour. And I'm thinking this time over this way. Now we've got so many beautiful florals that you could use for this design. Now in the group poppies, there's this one that's more of a bud. I wanted to do 3, but I just felt that there wasn't enough room for a third of the open poppy. So I thought if I come in with the bud look, if we stamp that there, I thought it just looks a little bit more natural to have. If I show you the 3. Now don't worry, it's off centre, but that's where your field grass comes in really well. You could add more foliage, but for me, I felt it didn't need too much. So we'll go into the lighter colour now, the Arctic. And you know me, I always say I'd love to have been a florist. So this is my little play at flower arranging. So I need to make sure that you keep your mask in place. Yeah, so I just need another one this side. When you are stamping, just be mindful of where this is though. Now what I'm thinking is, keep that there. Just a little bit of second generation up there, maybe one there. Yeah, that's enough. So I like that shape. So I'm happy with that. So we'll put the lid on there. And as always, we'll give that a bit of a blot. And then it's just adding colour. Now, again, you can add... this is the sort of design I actually think you could leave quite monochromatic. But I'm going to do some wink of colouring. And I've got my lovely Mondeluz pencils. And we've got number 16, 18 and 19. I just went for 3 blues. And nothing too difficult. And I just sort of... And you know me, because I'm going to do the wink of colouring, it doesn't need to be absolutely perfectly coloured, because my clear wink of Stella will blend it right to the edges for me. And I do think for me this really helps with the colouring. So I'm just going to colour the door. So what I decided was with the darker colour, I'm just going to add, and if you look at your stamps closely, Tracy puts dots where you'd have darker shadow. So I'm thinking there, look, where we'd have the darker shadow. And then I'll come in with my next colour. And I'm going to go around. Now it might be you want to just have yours multicoloured. Like I say, I just wanted to have this little bit of pottery. And then my lighter colour, look, and I'll just come in. And the beauty of this is, with using my wink of Stella to blend the colour, you don't have to worry too much about going right to the edges, but also a little tip as well, when you're colouring, don't press too hard. You're more likely to get lines if you press hard. And then they're harder to get rid of. So we'll go to the poppies now, again, leaning on my kitchen roll. And just at the base, look, I'm putting some of the dark. And then I'm going to come in with the light blue and just blend that up. Not right to the top, because again, my wink of Stella will blend that out beautifully. And I'm going to leave that. So, clean wink of Stella. So this is the clear. And I'm just starting at the top and coming down into that light blue, moving it and then going into that lovely dark colour. And I was just cleaning that because, again, I want to go into the light on here and come down into the dark. Now, this time, I'm not going to clean it, look. I'm going to keep that, and look at that. We can colour that one with what was left. And I just think that's beautiful. So when we come into here, I'll start with the dark first, and we'll just colour the door. And then we'll go around the window and then around the door. And then I'm just going to bring the handle, and it is amazing how, look, I can just drag that colour. And for me, it's just such a lovely way of colouring. And what I'm going to do is just go over the darker bits here where I've added the shade. So down the side, down this side. And then when I've done all the darker bits, then I can blend that colour out. And gradually it will become a lighter colour. And it'll just blend it beautifully. And often, you know, if you're worried about colouring a large area, just by doing the wink of colouring, it takes the pressure off doing that large area. And again, just go down the teapot spout, look. Now, Earl Grey, do any of you drink Earl Grey? Got to be honest, I'm not a big tea drinker. First thing in the morning, I do like a cup of tea, and I have my decaf before I go to bed at night. But in general, the rest of the time, I tend to have water with my meals, and then it tends to be my coffee. You know I like my coffee. There we go. So if I just clean the nib, make sure it's nice and clean, pop the lid on, and then I think that's beautiful. Now, I know you're probably looking at that and going, Jo, I'm not keen on that. Well, that's where your pastel pencils come in, look. And I often get asked about pastel pencils. I don't do a whole design in pastel pencils. I know some clever people can, but look, my white for my highlights, I use that a lot. The black for my shadows, but often the other colours. So what I'm going to do is just take the two blues, biodegradable cotton bud, just it helps me blending. And what I'm going to do is if I add a little bit of that darker blue and then blend in a little bit of this lighter blue. And you can also just add a little bit to where the grasses look. And then smudging does two things. I think it looks nicer, but also it just helps to fix it. If you did a whole piece, you'd need a spray fixative, but for the amount I use, you don't. But now, that's just fuzzied that area. And again, we can ground the whole thing with a little bit of just ground in there. And then again, I'll come in with the lighter colour. And because I wanted to keep it all in the blues, and again, we'll just smudge that out. And I try not to brush it with my hands. So if there's any excess pastel, I just would blow it or use my kitchen roll. I just think if you smudge it with your hands, if you're not careful, you can spoil the design. And that grounding really makes all the difference, doesn't it? And no skill required. Just a bit of two colours. Now, my favourite bit, the white highlights, and to me this makes all the difference. So I'm just checking my pen's working. Sometimes they don't. There we go. So now this will show up better when it's dry, but I will add some just to show you where I would add it, but I'll come back over when it's dry to show you. And what I was thinking was you'd have a little bit of highlight on the handle there, maybe just on the rim here, on the window, on the spout, and a couple round the arches, and just in the middle down there. But what I thought looked nice was just highlighting the odd one or two of these. Now again, you could colour them all in, but I just highlighted a few on the top of the spout, look, and sort of in the middle of the design. Now I'm not adding any splats to this, and I'm not adding any glitter, but you could easily add some stickles, some splats. I just like it as it is, and I think this would be lovely. You could do 2 or 3 of these. It'd be beautiful for batch card making, or maybe make some notelets for a friend, and you could do different colour tones, couldn't you? I mean, obviously you could have the red poppies. What about the orange and yellow ones? Or obviously other flowers. do you know what? You don't have to use poppies. Just happens I like my poppies. So I hope you've enjoyed that. And I'm sorry we can't stay longer today, but grandma duties, you know, it's important. And then tomorrow I'm off to Lavinia, so it's another sharing the love of Lavinia workshop at the Dreamatorium. Again, can't wait to see everybody. Got 4 lovely projects for you. And one might actually be featuring one of the teapots, that's all I'm saying. Anyway, I hope you have a lovely weekend. We're camping, there's a lovely campsite near. So Eric's getting a bit excited because he loves going in our little camper van. It's small, but you know what? We just love it. Weather's not going to be so good, but then to be honest, Carl, oh, he loves to just sit inside and go, I love to listen to the rain on the roof. Obviously, that's not my sentiment at all, but you know what? It keeps him happy. So I might just take my book, maybe a nice cheeky brew, biscuit and my book. So you have a lovely weekend. Take care of yourselves, please. And as always, thanks for your friendship and your support on here and your friendship for each other, because it does make a difference. If you have a go at this design, please share, because it just helps everybody else. You know, us crafters, we love to see each other's work. And, you know, it does. It just makes us feel good. So you take care. I'm off now. Have a lovely weekend. See you again on Monday. Love and hugs from me. Bye for now.